So I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of our KYC accelerator. This is a blueprint of all of the logic that you would need to perform a KYC checks, say within a bank, including enhanced due diligence checks. Now, this is not designed to be a product, okay? This is a knowledge graph that we have built in Rainbird as an accelerator to any KYC project. So all of this logic can, of course, represent your own indications of risk, your own model, your own policies, procedures, and it's very easy to build and maintain. The basic principle of a knowledge graph is we have concepts that have relationships with all the other concepts. These are all the factors that will go towards identifying whether any one particular unique customer is able to be onboarded. If we go and look, we can see that there's in excess of 100 rules in here, and in Rainbird the rules live on the edges of the relationship. They can be weighted where necessary, and Rainbird takes responsibility for combining all this logic to be able to make decisions in the case of any one particular customer. Now, for the purpose of this demo, we've connected this model to an external data source. So over here, I have some synthetic data, which is simply living in a spreadsheet for simplicity. And if I take one of these customers, let's say I want to take Diana Kimberly, let's copy her customer number and go ahead and let's ask Rainbird a question. So I'm going to say, what is the overall risk of onboarding customer, and we'll just put that customer's ID in. Now, Rainbird's going to reason over this knowledge graph. It doesn't need to have any data from me because it has access to that data source. And in this particular case, it's come back and it's given me an answer. And it's going to provide a natural language explanation to back up that answer as its first pass. And it's just generating that now. So in this particular case, we're saying, it's saying the customer, Kimberly Powell, has been assessed for various risk factors and has ultimately received a pass in the final risk category. She's not a PEP, there's no sanctions. It's going to go through and explain all of these attributes. Now, as it happens, that looks a little bit like something that's been generated by a large language model, but this model is not making a prediction about Diana Kimberly Powell. It's actually working the problem. So here we can see the overall risk rating, of which we have 100% certainty, but we're able to explore how this decision was reached. So we're able to see that she presents insufficient risk for us to worry. She's actually met all of the conditions that we would expect, but you're able to explore the chain of reasoning and identify how all of this has become about, because each of these decisions are ultimately based on sub-decisions that are based on sub-decisions, and we can explore all of that right back to where the data came from. And this is an irrefutable snapshot that provides the causal proof for why this is the right answer. So it's extremely regulatory friendly. So let's just reset this. I'm going to try now and ask the same question. We're going to ask this question on a different customer. Now, I happen to know that this customer, there is insufficient data in that data source for us to make a decision. So Rainbird, because it knows all of the knowledge that it needs, all of the data that it needs, is able to construct a dialogue with me. So it's asking whether or not this person has been confirmed as a PEP. I'm going to say that yes, they have. And again, it's sort of reasoning holistically over this logic, trying to get me to goal. How many years have they been a PEP? We'll say for about 3 years. It's going to ask me a couple of other questions. Are they a director of a company? Let's say yes. Again, the logic here isn't trying to be absolute chapter and verse. This is a demo. Which type of company? We'll say that it's a PLC. What else are we going to get? Which country is the company a director of? We will say the USA. Their company shareholder, let's say no. Now obviously it's going through quite a thorough Q&A session with me, but the key thing is nobody has actually scripted these questions. Rainbird is dynamically determining what is essential to ask in order to get to goal. It's not going to ask questions that are not relevant. And here we can see that it said, well, actually there's medium risk with this customer. It's given a score to that, and again it's going to provide us with a natural language explanation. But whilst it's generating that, this time we're able to see that not every condition has been met. But again, so for example, here this relates to some data that it got from me when we were consulting with it. But when we go back and we look at some of the other checks, again, you get this chain of reasoning that enables you to understand how the different features come together to create a sense of certainty. So that's the basic principle of how this works. Now, ultimately, it might be that we also want to be able to run this on a batch process basis. So here we can see I've pulled out some test cases into a separate sheet here. And what I've done within the Rainbird Studio is I've also created a workflow. So if I go and look at the workflows, here, we can see that there is a KYC workflow, and this workflow engine is incorporated into Rainbird. It enables us to very easily pull data in from external sources. It's got connectors to things like Google's World and Microsoft's World and so on. But in this particular case, what we're doing is we're saying, look, we want you to import that data, run it through the Rainbird knowledge graph, and depending on whether or not we can satisfy ourselves that we can pass all the checks, send an email, but write the data out to another spreadsheet. And here you can see I've got an empty spreadsheet ready. Now, when I go ahead and I run this flow, you're going to be able to see that it's effectively taking this input data, it's analyzing it against the graph, and it's programmatically spitting the answers out into this spreadsheet. And here we can see that it's come up with plenty of these answers here, and I can go and explore the evidence tree for any of these, and in a similar way I'm able to then go and see what's behind each of these. Now in this particular case, we've actually, as a proxy for a work queue, I've also just set up a mailbox, so it's creating an email for each of these. And here you can see this is actually the case that we had before. We think this person might be a possible PEP, which is why it's going to ask to go through a consultation. And here it's going to ask me similar questions, or the same questions to what it asked before. But this just sort of gives you an indication that Rainbird is capable of running on a batch process as well. So hopefully that gives you an understanding as to how our KYC accelerator works. Very happy to take any questions. Thank you for your time.